Okay, code and hey guys, and welcome to the new live episode of the Fullfunnel B2B Marketing Podcast hosted by me, Andrei Zinkiewicz, and our company Fullfunnel.io. Today I promised you guys that we'll have a slightly different format. We're going to do a live experiment of setting up the Fullfunnel LinkedIn ad strategy, and I believe I brought the best possible guest to do it live, Justin Rowe, who is running one of the best, it's just from my humble opinion, obviously, one of the best LinkedIn agencies. And if you guys are not following him on LinkedIn, you are missing a lot. He's sharing practical advice how to run LinkedIn ads in the most efficient way. So we're going to touch a lot of points today. We'll show you multiple examples of how to run LinkedIn ads, how to budget LinkedIn ads, right? What kind of ads works for awareness? What kind of ads works for demand generation? Lots of these things. You're very welcome to ask your questions in a Zoom chat. If you want to join live, just raise your hand or type your question in a Zoom chat. I will call you out. And we have collected 45 questions from you guys. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for submitting. I would love to. I hope that we'll be able to cover everything. But so far, we have more than 100 people here in a Zoom room. Where you guys are joining us from? I'm calling from Split, Croatia. Justin, where you calling? Where are you joining us from?
I'm in Indiana, in the Midwest United States.
Where you guys are joining us? Type in the Zoom chat. UK. So UK is
yeah.
Justin, did you run a promotion to UK audience? Lots of UK.
I think I know some people over there.
Pakistan, Texas, India, DC, France, living in Uruguay, Missouri, UK. Lots of UK. New York, New Jersey, nice. Denmark, Madrid, London, UK, Poland, Pennsylvania, nice. One more.
I'm just more surprised by the amount of people and the activity level here. This is a pretty nice live workshop that I think we're going to have here.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks a lot for joining us. As always, you will receive recording and you can always sign up to our podcast on Spotify or on YouTube, whatever you prefer. I will share the links later. But let's dive in just to make it practical and valuable for you, right? As promised, we are going to share Fullfunnel LinkedIn ads strategy. And I believe, you know what, Justin, we can kick it off with just one simple question. Can you just briefly explain your entire framework, how to set up Fullfunnel LinkedIn ad strategy? Because I know you have published this on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I can. So probably what would be helpful is if I share my screen and I can go over a couple of things. I think the first thing that I probably want to kind of touch on is just my overall view of what you can do with LinkedIn ads. And then we'll start on a more practical level of actually looking at kind of a blank canvas. What are some foundational things we can build here? And then even dive into building an actual, campaign. I don't think we have the image in the text, but building the campaign, the targeting, the objectives, and getting some of that foundational layer in there. So one of the cool things that I think LinkedIn ads has that most of these other ad platforms don't, in my opinion, is targeting. And so that's one thing I really want to get into here is, who can we target? How precise can we get? And to me, that's why it is such a great place to start with the cold audience, because you can get on your ideal ICP down to company size, industry. They engage with marketing automation content, and you can make sure that your ads are going to the right person. But probably the biggest superpower of LinkedIn to me is the retargeting layer. So in this kind of probably complex looking funnel, this would be more of a mature, this probably takes 4 to 6 months to get something this big. This little section here, is usually the cold section. We'll dive in more into ABM type structures here as well, which would move a lot of this into the cold. If you have a smaller ICP, you'll be layering in more of these things that I, for larger ICPs would recommend in their targeting. More of this would just move into there. But the big superpower of LinkedIn, in my mind, is the fact that you can track your website visitors from all sources and then qualify them with these targeting filters. So you can say, hey, my Google Ads traffic, my Facebook traffic, my organic LinkedIn traffic, the last 90-day visitors, 180-day visitors who are from these countries, these industries, these company sizes and decision-making status, I want to retarget them with LinkedIn ads, and then come up with the process of what content are you putting in front of them? Because it's not just ads. If you see in here, I recommend using things like testimonials, case studies, different types of ads for different things, and having different buckets where you say, 90-day retargeting, 180-day nurturing, and if there's these high intent actions, even a 30-day kind of high intense push with the CTA. So that's kind of big vision.
That was a question about the budget. Was it a monthly budget?
Oh, that budget was, this was kind of a structure for the $10,000 to $20,000 monthly budget. And that's one thing I can talk about too, because I do think what you can do with LinkedIn, actually, this is probably a better one. What you can do with LinkedIn, I kind of have this, it's a free resource I can share as well. I put out some of these different by budget. Like if I only had $500 or $1,000 budget, what I would probably recommend is a very simple kind of structure like this, where you have your cold ads that kind of touch on pain points, your main service, the results. And I would layer in with very inexpensive, high frequency text ads as retargeting that kind of convey those things. And as you kind of mature in your budget, you can kind of add in, swap out single image add in extra layers. So the idea of changing your kind of plan by budget and is a really big one for me.
So the guy's asking about these documents. So I will just include the link in the email with the recording, so you can just guys.
Okay, yeah, we'll put them in there.
One of the biggest questions I believe everybody has, and I already see this question is pumping up in the chat, is when you decide to start retargeting, right? And where's the bridge between awareness campaign and, let's say, bottom of the funnel content when you start promoting case studies, customer stories, etc.?
So for me, and this is debatable on LinkedIn, and it is dependent on the audience size. So again, if you have a large target audience, like I would say more than 70 or 80,000, then it's going to take a different approach than if you have a lower target audience of 30,000 or less. But and the biggest thing to me is frequency. So with LinkedIn ads, the frequency is the amount of ads from a campaign that your target audience sees in a given time frame. So the smaller your target audience is, depending on your budget, the more ads they would see. And so what I would say is, if you have a smaller target audience, so this is mostly ABM focused for this podcast, and so I'll try to gear most of mine to that, is that most of the things that I recommended in this would kind of be moved into the cold layer. Because for me, the biggest objections to overcome, especially in B2B and in ABM, first, get on the radar. But to me, that can be accomplished once they've seen a couple of your ads. The biggest objection, and the one I spend the most time with, is how do you overcome the fact that they don't know you, they don't trust you, they don't view you as the experts. So getting those kind of shifting pretty quickly from, hey, we're pretty sure that they've heard of us or they know what we do, and shifting 80% of your focus into, now we have the hard job of making them see us as experts in our industry, that we're working with, reputable people, that they're getting results, that we should be their go-to source. I would say, that's where 70 to 80% of the focus is usually for me when I'd run these kind of campaigns.
Nice. Just to make it clear for you guys, at Fullfunnel, we never never ever ran LinkedIn ads. So all of our pipeline and revenue is coming from our demand generation, organic activities, and ABM programs that we are running to acquire, let's say, our tier 1 accounts. So today we decided to do this live experiment. The first time we did something similar was probably 6 months ago, when we hosted our annual Fullfunnel Summit, and we just ran a live ABM campaign, generate an opportunity in 50 minutes. So today we will try at least to do something similar. And let's pretend if Justin joined my team, right? So what would be the process for us? How would you help us to set up this strategy step by step?
So the first thing I would do, and I think we have a lot of technically savvy people, probably a lot of people who have dabbled with LinkedIn ads. So we don't want to spend a ton of time in kind of the basic settings, but there's a couple of core points, even for those who have tried this, that I think are missed. So super basic, this one you probably have, the insights tag. If you haven't run LinkedIn ads yet, or for example, Fullfunnel here, what I would advise is maybe a good starting point would be, you come here, insights tag, if they haven't already. You can find the tag. I won't click on it and show their code, and throw it onto the global footer of your website. The beautiful thing about the insights tag for LinkedIn is that it tracks the traffic of all sources. So for example, for them, if they already have traffic coming to their website, people that are considering them and wanting to work with them, not all of those are. So even just starting with LinkedIn retargeting would be a great addition to almost any profitable funnel that you already have going on. You don't need to think of LinkedIn as a new isolated silo that needs to start from scratch and work its way into existence. It could start with just collecting data for a couple of months and starting to retargeting, just getting more out of your existing pipeline. If you're running Google ads, you have organic traffic, just getting more out of that. So I'd say step 1, get the insights tag. And then step 2, immediately set up these audiences here. So if you go into plan, you go into audiences, you can create these. And these are really simple to make. So for example, this beautiful website here, we're going to create website. We'll do 90-day, but I would say do a 30-day, do a 90-day, do a 180-day. And you just want to say contains, and I usually do the simplest as possible, contains their website. And you can also do that by key pages to set up individual retargeting spots for maybe they visited your website, but or they visited your contact us page. So if you have higher intent pages, like maybe they visited specific pages or content that exists on your website that's more high value, you can create retargeting audiences just for that. Or they visited this page, but they didn't visit this page. You could create those groups and curate ads that would probably be more relevant to them. And the 3 main ones you want to do this for is website, and make your different buckets: 30-day, 90-day, 180-day. Single image ad, if you're running single images, it now can actually track anyone who engages with your ad. They don't even have to click into the website. They don't have to get cookied. So as this kind of privacy and data laws take over and it gets harder to cookie website visitors, LinkedIn actually allows you to own all that data and retarget people, even if they weren't cookied on your website. And then company page. This is, so for this, I'd also have to have access to their company page, but this is retroactive. You could set up, even if you were starting today, and actually this would probably be a good place for them to start, you can set up company page retargeting, and you can go back a year worth, and you could say, hey, let me just run some ads to anyone who's visited the Fullfunnel company page in the last year, 6 months, 3 months. That would be a really warm place to start. And you could layer on filters and say, hey, they visited their company page in the last 6 months, and they're from these countries, these industries that we work with, these company sizes that have budget, and these seniority levels that we know are decision makers. That would be a really, really warm audience to start with for some ads. So those would be the 2 main things to start as fundamental settings.
And can I ask you just a technical question? I see the guys asking here in a Zoom chat about the tag. So wait, it was
The new plugin.
yeah. So they asked. I have Caitlin asking. I have had issues with the inside tag showing up on LinkedIn's, and even though I have installed it several times. So what's the problem?
So yeah, there's three different ways you can do it. You can drop it into the global footer. For most websites, there's a plugin called Insert Headers and Footers that has worked beautifully for me. I install that plugin and it makes it really easy to just drop that code down into the global footer. That usually works great. The second option is, I think, LinkedIn does have an actual LinkedIn plugin now. It's kind of like the Facebook. Facebook has had that for a while, where you just get that plugin, connect it to your account, and it works. I've done that with a few accounts, and that seems to work. And if you're kind of savvy, I feel like this is more hacker level. I think you can also do it through Google Tag Manager, which takes a little more, I think, skill set in my mind. But that seems to work as well. I think that has more room for error because it takes a little more technical expertise to set up. The global footer with some plugin like Insert Header Footer seems to be the easiest path for most of our clients.
So we have several audiences, right? We have the audiences, let's say 6 months, timeline, 90 days, 30 days, etc. So 30 days is kind of warm audience that's like pretty well aware of you. They have visited your website, etc. And those who attended your website in the past 180 days, right? This, I mean, generally speaking, let's pretend this is like kind of a colder audience. So what would be the approach? Would you move these accounts to awareness and demand gen program, basically targeting with educational content? Or what would be your advice?
Yeah, usually for when I'm in that retargeting phase, that is, I would say 80% of my focus is because you're going to create, you're going to stay in front of them almost no matter what. With retargeting ads, it's going to have your logo, your name. So almost anything you put in front of them is going to overcome that objection of just, hey, let's stay top of mind, let's stay in front of them. So in my mind, in addition to just running those, and the frequency is going to be higher. Like for cold ads, the average frequency, they might see 2 or 3 ads from your data set in like an average campaign with, if you're just getting started with a small budget. Once you move that into retargeting, like even if you're targeting 30,000 people in cold, whatever your budget is, that's spread around all of those people. When you get 850 people who have clicked your ad, visited your website, or visit your company page, and now you're retargeting them, even with $10, $15 a day, they're going to see 6, 7, 8 ads over a 60. They might see 10 plus ads from your campaign over a 90-day window. So you just have that many more opportunities. So I like to do a mix of, let's do some that are just straightforward. Hey, this is who we are, what we do. But then most of them is, hey, this is why you can trust us. We've been mentioned or featured in this publication. Here's a client who's had, X success. Here's a case study. Here's a video of me showing you how to set this up, kind of proving that we're the experts. And lately I've been liking to use retargeting ads to drive people into my organic communities. So I'll actually send them, hey, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's a resource for LinkedIn ads. Hey, sign up for our newsletter where you'll get insights and case studies from clients we work with, or, listen to the podcast, or because that way, even if they're not ready to buy, if you can funnel them into one of your organic communities, you can market to them for free for basically forever. So I would say that's a really good kind of mix or way to think about that.
So question from Noah, is there a way to set a frequency cap on ads?
There is not. You kind of have to play it by ear and by budget. So that the main levers that cause frequency is audience size and budget. And you could limit it by just not having as many creatives in there, because LinkedIn can only show a unique ad to someone every, I think 48 hours or something. So you could limit your frequency just by limiting how many ads you are, but that to me is not the best. So I would say if you wanted to cap the frequency at a certain amount, then you either need to let out the target audience, like go to a broader target audience, or limit your budget. The minimum is $10 per day. So then only other way to limit it lower than that would be to use some kind of like ad scheduling tool to like limit the amount of time that your ads are running throughout that day or throughout the week. Because we actually do that with some of ours where this is our retargeting layers. So, and some of these are pods that actually get turned back on. So I run a very simple cold and I run very complex retargeting layers, but I use ad scheduling tool that we kind of created ourselves to rotate these in and out so they're not just all running all day, every day. So that would be another good way to kind of limit frequency.
And just a practical question. So you mentioned these 4 tiers of budgets for LinkedIn ads, right? And just recommended to like build the confidence, start small, and then just, basically learn how to walk before start running, right? So my question is, what would be the recommended proportion between the budget for the awareness and demand gen and proportion for the budget for retargeting?
So, and this will change depending on how large the audience is. We work with a lot of small to mid-sized companies, and their target audience or their total addressable market is reasonably big enough that we actually have 20 or 30% of the budget in the cold kind of awareness, getting on the radar, and then 70% of the budget kind of once we get those people that are showing interest, we're retargeting them with those layers. Now, the smaller your audience gets, I would say that budget shifts. So if you're going after a group of 10, 15,000 people, then I would say you probably want to have, a good portion. It could be 50 or 60% of your budget just staying in front of those people. I would keep an eye on frequency, because if the average person in that group, say you're targeting a 15,000 person group, this is ABM, if the average person is seeing 20 of your ads over 90 days, then you really want to have kind of layers in there so that maybe 20% of your creatives in there are focused on awareness and who we are, what we do. But I would still say 80% in that layer should be, this is why you can trust us. This is why we're the experts. This is, why we have credibility.
And one more question about targeting. So do you have advice for targeting a niche within niche audience? So for example, customers must be using a specific CRM to use your product.
If they're using a certain CRM. So LinkedIn doesn't have, let's just choose an objective. So that was the first, if you saw this is where you have the 3 main types, where you have awareness, consideration, conversions, and the different objectives that you can choose. So if we're talking about initial cold ads, maybe we'll choose awareness. The targeting that LinkedIn has is pretty cool. You could say that they have an interest. So this is kind of how this HUD looks like. You could say they have an interest in a specific product. Well, actually, it's more in a product group. If you wanted to get specific about they have HubSpot or Salesforce, there are list building sites. One of them is Wappalizer, where you can actually search companies by the tech that's installed on their website. So one of the things that we found through Sales Navigator and LinkedIn ads is that it's really hard to target e-commerce companies, because LinkedIn has been really slow to put that as a filter. They don't have it as a real industry. I mean, now I don't know if you guys knew this, they do have, is it internet retail? It's like online. They just added this. I'm not going to be able to find it on live, of course, but they did add one that I think is actually supposed to be e-com. It's like online retail or shopping or whatever. But otherwise, you'd have to go to something like Wappalizer, where you could build a list of people that have Shopify or WooCommerce installed on their website. And you have other filters. You could say they have this tech installed on their website from this country, from these company sizes and these industries. And then you could pay, to get that list. And then you would just import that company list into LinkedIn ads. And then you would target the people in those companies. So if you had a company list of, 500, you could then say, okay, they're part of this company list, and they have these job titles in these countries. So then that's how you would use that company list to target the people inside of it.
Cool. So
Yeah, let me get that.
the build with, right?
Built with is a way to check it like individually. Well, I guess, yeah, I don't, they probably do have, yeah, built with is one. But Wappalizer is another one that we like. But yeah, builtwith.com is the other one.
Okay. I see Ivan wants to ask a question, so let me bring you in just a second.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, wow, this is a bit surreal. I was listening to your podcast, Andrei, epic. I feel like speaking to a Hollywood star, but to get to the point. I run some ads for a small client. She was doing leadership courses, and she was organizing a 4-week course for the price of 400 euros, to say. And she had a target audience that she was sure these are the target customers, because that seemed to work in the past. So we ran the ads. We had a lot of clicks, a lot of websites visits, but not many people registered. In fact, none registered since the course started. Maybe it generated awareness. So I used the combination between text ads, carousel ads, single image ads, and I used time frame was a month and a half. I tried also lead gen forms, but that didn't seem to work for some reason. Nobody filled in the form, but LinkedIn still charged me for that type of ad. So I'm wondering what went wrong.
Normally in these cases, in my
Thank you.
mind, so a month and a half, a lot of times what happens is we're being too reliant on the cold layer. And this is also where LinkedIn ads being too expensive gets a bad stigma. I have not seen many successful LinkedIn ad campaigns that show a positive ROI in the cold layer. So my guess is a month and a half, that's the majority, if not all of the spend was going after cold audiences. There probably wasn't a retargeting layer or strategy in place that kind of, then educated, especially something like that. If it's a course or workshop or whatever, like the big thing isn't just, hey, this exists. It's who are you? Why can I trust you? Why are you the person that I should learn this from? And to me, that is best done retargeting. So they clicked in, they visited the website, and that has terrible conversion rates. I mean, logically, someone should have converted in a month and a half with that amount of spend. But to me, 80 or 90% of the results come from when they click into the website, then spending the next 30, 60, 90 days using ads to relay why you can trust us, what other people who have signed up for this have gotten as results, who else we've worked with. Those are the things that when you put back in front of them at a high frequency converts. That's usually, other than that at a $400 or a 400 euro, that is low enough that I would usually see some conversions in a month and a half. So then my only other would be, what were the settings, the targeting? Could that have been tighter? Was audience expansion on? What did the audience network settings look like? They by default have audience network settings completely on, and it shows in every single one of these groups, which oftentimes can be irrelevant. So you'd have to manually come in and exclude different groups that don't make sense. So by default, this is on, showing it in every single category, and the audience network pushes it out to trusted third-party sites. But what I've seen is that if not curated or monitored, 99% of your budget can go actually off of LinkedIn into the audience network, and it's something that you'd really want to watch.
Thank you. I see lots of questions, and I know that most people are interested in how are you going to select the content for the awareness. And I mean, for the retargeting, more or less, I believe it's pretty clear for everybody, right? So you have the case studies, you have testimonials, as you said, you can use some, if you have video interviews with your clients, you can use the snippets from these interviews, right? And you can retarget people with the results, etc. But for the awareness and demand gen part, what's your process of selecting content? Maybe you can share some examples, or maybe you can go, because, for example, we are posting Not frequently, but still we are posting the content from our company's page. Maybe we can look at this content.
That's true.
Just give some examples.
Yeah.
How would you evaluate what content might be used for demand gen?
Yeah, let's go both routes. So I have a couple of kind of theories and ideas, and let me show you. So my basic theory for the initial ads that people see that would be their first touch. Normally, I like to be kind of straightforward. I don't like to get too cute or clever. Usually, I like to kind of show them, hey, this is who we are and this is what we offer, or this is the main pain point we solve, or this is the result that, the main result of working with us is. And I like that to be their first touch. And it's very kind of like an advertisement. And in a world where I think savvy marketers are switching to ads that don't look like ads, I like something straightforward like that to be my first touch, because interaction with those ads or clicks into the landing page from those ads, I think separates, there is some level of intent. It wasn't just, it's almost like blogs where you have top of funnel. This is, what are LinkedIn ads? Sure, we could write a blog on that and we could get traffic to our website, but where is that on the funnel? That's very low intent, very top of the funnel, where I could be writing articles on, how to improve the ROI of your LinkedIn ads campaign, which would be most intriguing to people already running LinkedIn ads, bottom of the funnel, and try to position ourselves as experts. So some of our ads are very straightforward for the cold layer, where they're kind of boring. That's white label LinkedIn paid ads agency or, LinkedIn ads agency. I actually do like to use, so for those of you who are actually on LinkedIn and using and post organically, one of the things I've actually been doing that I think is working well is I'll actually take a screenshot of a post or an organic post that is doing well. I'll intentionally capture the engagement that's in that organic post, and I'll use that image as a good either cold or retargeting, especially if it's educational. The clever thing here is that this is all part of the image. So if I actually caught their attention here, like they'll scroll past this and then they'll think this is an organic post, and then they click see more. This is part of the image that actually sends them to the destination URL. So it's a little tricky. But I would say things that are very straightforward that actually say who you are and what you do, those usually make for the best initial ads in my mind. And yeah, we could look at, and yeah, so one of the things I love about Fullfunnel is that they're like the definition of marketing nerds. Like when you see their charts and when you see their, and I think to me as an outsider, to me, that's kind of part of like their brand image is they are these like planning marketing nerds who love to put together these complex strategies. And most of us love like a good chart. So I guess it would depend too. Like I would use, if you're posting organically, I would say you could take one of your, because you probably know, like, what is some of your go-to content that gets legitimate conversations started that usually end in possible, clients or just more interest or at the beginning of a relationship. It might be a specific chart or flow or strategy that you share. And I would say some of those might be some of the best, even like this, how very simple it is, but it's very lead generation versus ABM. Yeah. So I would say it also comes down to probably knowing your content, what people seem to gravitate towards, and then intention wise, which one of these starting healthy conversations that actually do end up into like prospect calls. Some of those make some of the greatest ads.
So just a practical question. Does it make sense? Basically what we are doing, we are just repurposing one, like our best performing posts that we are sharing from our personal profiles, me and my co-founder. And then we just slightly tweak them and post from our company's page. So does it make sense? Is it like kind of a valid point to make that we need to look basically for the demand generation and awareness for this, let's say, cold audience, right? This makes sense to look at the content that has the highest engagement or had the highest engagement from the personal profiles and from the company's page, and use this one just to nurture this cold audience.
Yes, for you guys specifically, I would say that would be a good barometer, because you guys don't post like fluffy content that's just getting likes and engagement. Like if you posted a picture of a puppy, another case of the Mondays, and that got 2 million likes, like just because that did well doesn't necessarily mean that's what you should lead with for an ad. But you guys post ABM marketing strategies. So yes, for you, if you have a post that's gotten a lot of traction organically, that it absolutely is a great indicator that would be something that would catch people's eye. And what I would do is I would, instead of just, what you're doing for the company page where you're kind of recreating that and reposting that there as a separate entity, I would screenshot your organic post with the 100, whatever likes and all the comments and shares. I would screenshot that, and I would use that as some of these posts, because I do think in a way you don't necessarily need to separate those. And I call it ad seasoning on Facebook. When you see these ads pop up and they have hundreds and hundreds of likes and comments, like, you stop and you give it a little more credit. And it's the same way for LinkedIn ads. The more social proof and engagement that ad or post has, the better it does. And so you can kind of screenshot that and capture some of that. You guys will just have to be careful, because what I've learned the hard way, especially if LinkedIn is, is part of your funnel and process, is that you can't say LinkedIn on any of your LinkedIn ads, and the landing page that you send them to also can't have LinkedIn on it. I learned this the hard way. That's probably why I'm one of the only LinkedIn ads agencies who are crazy enough to actually advertise as much as I do on LinkedIn, because they make it very, very hard for you. But yeah, that's what I would do.
Love it. Thank you so much. So one more question I would love to touch, and it would be related to account-based marketing, right? Like among these 45 questions that we have collected from the community, I believe at least 10 questions were related to account-based marketing. So we just discussed the way how we can, let's say, nurture the cold audience, right? The website visitors, or one of the strategies that I believe we don't do this for ourselves, but we do this with our clients. We love to install the web traffic reveal software like Clearbit or Leadfeeder or Albacross, right? And then we can just get a list of companies that engage with the specific pages, right? And then we can just upload this list of companies to LinkedIn and start targeting these accounts. But the question is from many folks, what if we don't have enough audience? So let's say the bare minimum at LinkedIn is 300 contacts, right? So yeah. What if we don't have this volume? What would be your recommendations?
So I would say that there is a danger of going too small, and it's almost like for people who have advertised on Facebook. So LinkedIn is way different than Facebook, but in this concept, people seem to understand that on Facebook, there's this idea that instead of just uploading like I guess if your total addressable market is, X, then there's no point in doing lookalikes or expanding or whatever. But there is this idea that there's a perfect ICP, and then there's the perfect ICP to target on LinkedIn, because not everyone is active at the same level on LinkedIn, is reachable on LinkedIn. So getting a little broader and allowing for LinkedIn to kind of pick and choose who it shows ads to can help with the cost per click. And so I wouldn't say, don't just do audience expansion or lookalikes. Those seem to be terrible options on LinkedIn. But if you're limiting it because, this is your total addressable market, but this is your ideal perfect ICP, and that's too small, then I would say, really look at it. And can you expand? Sure, we want to target people with 500 to 1,000, but can we serve this group and this group? And could you widen it a little? Otherwise, what you could do if your total addressable market really is, 278 people and that's just it, you could add some really small inactive group as like an extra dummy list, so that you can market to those people. We thought about this to get into retargeting earlier, because we usually typically when we run ads for clients, we run cold ads for at least a month, and then we'll have enough data in month 2 to start retargeting. If theoretically you wanted to run retargeting from day 1, you could upload a dummy list of 500 really inactive people. And then you would simply create a rule that says, okay, if they're part of this group or this group, I want to run ads. So mostly the ads are going to get served to the group you actually want. And you have this dummy list uploaded that just kind of takes up space and, isn't going to get served ads. And it's kind of a workaround.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, so we had this discussion. I see the questions about budget appearing again in the chat. So I promised to share Justin's document where you can see these different budget tiers, right? So different budget buckets, so you can see it. Yeah, lots of questions about dark social, etc. are going
Sorry.
from what we have discussed, but I love how this conversation is going.
Yeah, we can roll with it.
For dropping all of this. So my point, I totally love everything that you have shared. My point, and this is basically the concept of full funnel marketing. I don't believe in a pure demand generation or pure demand capturing, right? So exactly what you have explained. First, you need to create awareness. You need to attract the attention of people. Next, you need to make these people curious what the product does, right? At least checking the website or additional resources, maybe additional posts that are coming from this specific profile of company's page. Next step is exactly what you said, the demand generation. I know there are lots of conversations about ungated content, etc. But then you perfectly said, okay, so person needs to go to YouTube, you signs up, right? So anyhow, you reveals yourself. Right, YouTube will send notification. This guy signed up for your channel, right? If you'll sign up for a specific webinar, we'll see your email. And the problem is, I believe in this case there were lots of questions like when sales should join. I want to ask your opinion, but I would drop my 5 cents on this. I think that the worst way you can do is just set up gated content like promoting ebooks with this strategy, right? Then or use these lead gen forms, capture these emails, and then spam everybody. That won't definitely work. For me, the best outcome, and I was just wondering if you are doing the same, right? So if I'm using my best case studies or customer stories, we have basically video case studies with our clients where they share the results, right? They got from launching ABM campaigns with us. So my next point, am I correct? My next point would be sending them to my landing page, basically where they can book a call with me, right?
Yeah, so the way that a lot of companies really love the lead gen forms, and yeah, on LinkedIn, if you're tuning in to like the big demand gen, you wouldn't think it's, but those are the top 5% of marketers who are against that. It's still it's still everywhere. Like the lead gen forms run as cold, and then they retarget those who interacted with it with lead gen forms. Like these are funded startups, big companies. It's what they're used to. What I find is the overwhelming problem there is that those are really weak leads. They saw an ad, they clicked on the form, it popped up, it captured the information. They've never been to your website. They don't really know who you are, what you're about, kind of what you offer. The ad was for a checklist on, how to run good LinkedIn ads or what the value of whatever. And then you sick your salesperson on them. Like the salespeople hate those leads. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to sales teams who are like, don't even send us the LinkedIn leads. They're garbage. And then then I'm offended because LinkedIn ads gets a bad name because the sales teams are like, these are garbage. Anything that comes out of LinkedIn is garbage. And we tried that for ourselves because it's almost like, hey, we're going to run LinkedIn ads and everyone does it this way. So it must be what you're supposed to do. But I stopped wasting my time following up on those. it's almost like if someone clicked on your blog of what is LinkedIn ads, and then you have your sales guy call them like twice a day, like it doesn't make any sense. So what we've done, and we're completely kind of non-traditional because I just leaned on my strengths. We never really got into having like a large sales team. We created our pipeline almost 100% inbound. So we run cold ads that get on people's awareness. We follow up and retarget them and build trust and credibility. They come back to the website and then fill out the form. And usually actually ours like immediately allows them to pick a time on the calendar. And then they meet with our sales team. So our sales team just takes inbound. So I would say at the point where you want to get your sales team involved would be, and they actually come inbound, or like you said, if you have the ability to identify people that are on your website and you have triggers like how much time they've spent, the pages they visited, key pages, and you have, a good way of saying, okay, they haven't come completely inbound, they haven't requested this, but they know who we are. That's better than, what most people do with LinkedIn lead gen forms. But what we've seen too is when you take this demand gen approach, and the path to like booking a call with us is they saw an ad, they visited our website, they saw a case study, they subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then they book a call with us. The show up rates on those are amazing. The close rates are really good. And our team is simply explaining to them if this is a good fit or not. And they're not telling them like, hey, this is why you can trust us. This is why we're better than, our competitor. They show up excited to talk. They're usually almost like kind of convinced that they want to buy. They just want to make sure it's a good fit for them. So that's a completely different conversation than when you have a pretty cold lead that you're sicking your sales team on, who then has to convince them, hey, we can solve your pain. Hey, we're the experts that can solve your pain. When they show up with that knowledge, that's pretty nice.
So another question, let's say if we are setting up these ads, is there any recommended proportion between text ads, display ads, video ads, etc.? So we have these different ad formats, or you would just suggest to stick to like a couple of them and run the ads? What would be a recommendation?
And I see a couple other ones I want to cherry pick too. So one of them is how do we track okay, so we'll dive into that. The different variations, honestly, one of the things that I love is that a lot of these don't take a lot of money. So this is our last 30 days. Look at these text ads. These text ads are set at a $15 a day budget. They've been running every day for 30 days. It spent $55. Text ads, spotlight ads, follower ads, incredibly cheap. But the amazing part is they have high impressions, high frequency. They get placed on your prospect screen like a ton. So for 94,000 impressions, I only spent $55. Compare that with this campaign. This is single image ads, only 12,000 impressions, but $1,200 spent. So a fraction of the impressions, 10, 20 times the spend. So I do really, really, really recommend mixing up single image ads, video ads. The things that are in the feed are the most expensive. They are, of course, the most powerful touch. But to supplement that, I love text ads, spotlight ads, follower ads. One of the other questions was, how do we track conversions, specifically with like Calendly, or if they book a call, how do we know that? That's one of my favorite things to kind of answer as well. So I kind of wanted to cherry pick that. Is anything, and you can track anything as a conversion that has a URL. So you can set up an online conversion, and you can say if they reach a page on our website that contains this URL, count as a conversion. So then what I've done on my website is I set up everything to be trackable. If they fill out a form on my website, they're forwarded to a thank you page. If they book a call on Calendly and HubSpot and any other call booking software allows for a URL redirect. We push them to a call booked confirmed page. If they sign up, become paying clients, you can either use a sales page or Stripe or something that pushes them to a purchase confirmed or new client page to track, or as part of your onboarding process, paying clients get an intake form. Submission of that pushes them to a thank you, here's the next steps page. And you know that anyone who hits that has converted. And then what I like to do is I add, values. I just did first purchase values to these, but every single goalpost that you want to track can be a trackable conversion. You can assign a value to it. And it's as simple as having a dedicated URL as a goal point and making sure that anyone who completes that goal gets pushed to that URL. And that's one of my favorite things about LinkedIn ads, is that, yes, we want to show this isn't just some fuzzy thing. Like, how can you know? Like, you can prove the value of this and show the funnel.
Thank you. So one more technical question I saw about the cookies, right? If people don't accept the cookies, how can you track the thank you page?
So that gets a little tricky. I think so. I guess it's less of an issue in the United States. They're pretty lenient on that. You can use, I don't know what the success rate is. Like, I haven't seen a big drop off with that, with the insights tag, but I think it's also because even though we don't know necessarily who it was, like LinkedIn can tell that someone who engaged with, that's probably more of a technical question of, we might not be able to show like the person or the IP who ended up on that page, but I think a lot of times LinkedIn still knows like that it happened. Because I haven't seen like a real drop off, and maybe some of the conversions aren't getting reported. I guess that's a decent question, and maybe that will erode. And then the next question would be, if we weren't able to track by URL, what other options are there? Because even Google Tag Manager, I think it would rely on the fact that we know who initially, or at least the device that initially clicked, and if that device made it to a certain goalpost or click. I'm not sure I fully have an answer for that.
And what about conversational ads? Do you use somewhere them in your mix?
So that's a really popular topic, is the conversational ads. And I believe most of LinkedIn's features go through a phase where they release it and they're less people are using it. You can get way better reach. As that becomes more saturated, I do believe the cost of those went up. My two favorite places to use those, and I saw a good metadata case study on those. I think he really liked to run those at one point. Was if you have a highly curated cold list that's very specific, because that's the detail. It needs to be specific. It can't just be, hey, I run a LinkedIn ads agency. If you're curious to whatever, like that usually isn't going to be worth the price. If you can get very specific and say, hey, I noticed you were at Ad World Conference 2022 and that you have the LinkedIn Insights pixel installed on your website. I'm curious if you are getting a positive ROI out of that. And if not, I'd like to offer you, or you're not sure, I'd like to offer you a free audit. Getting that specific data up front, and with an ABM list, if you're going by either, by company or by group or by industry, or a very specific problem that you solve for that niche, that's really good. Or the second place I like to use it is retargeting, where you say, hey, I noticed you were on, you visited our website, and we work with other marketing professionals who do this, this, and this. So if you can retarget and group them by like industry or company size, and again, get specific about what that group's problem is and the message you want to send to them, conversation ads can be really good, but they're not good just as like a broad awareness touch at all, I would think.
These were my thoughts actually. And I saw also Stacy mentioned that she had really good success when released, but now they're horrible, so they don't perform really well. Guys, I saw we had lots of discussions in a Zoom chat. It was just exploding. So I'm dropping a link to our Trenches community. Feel free to join us. It's a Slack community. We announce these weekly live events with other B2B marketing experts, right? So you can always join. You can always ask the questions or share your experience. You are very welcome. So just drop the link. Feel free to join us. Before we'll move to the Q&A, one more thing about the recording. So one more link. I'm sharing Spotify, so you can sign up and We'll also add a link to the video recording we attach it to every episode, plus the resources that Justin mentioned. I will share everything with you, so feel free to sign up. And before we'll move to your questions, one more question from my side. How did you like this episode, guys? Share with us in the Zoom chat. Could be thumbs up, fire, rocket, shit if you didn't like it.
We can say that on here?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm running this podcast. Nobody can blame me.
Oof, I gotta pull the plug.
Yeah,
This was a pretty lively chat. I was trying to keep up with those questions and eyeball them, but
yeah, awesome,
pretty good.
insightful. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate a lot the feedback. So thank you so much for the feedback. And actually, let's cover some questions that we didn't cover so far. I saw multiple questions about the direct ads, but I highly recommend you to check the beginning of this podcast episode. We discussed like the proportion and what you can use, right? Basically, you use them in your retargeting campaigns. So Justin shared a couple of examples, and we discussed, for example, what we can use at Fullfunnel to retarget our clients. Just check the beginning of this episode. How do you decide on the daily budget?
So a lot of clients we work with, they kind of set a monthly budget, and then initially, if they're just one cold campaign, we'll divide that up, the monthly budget by 30. And then as we add on different layers, it gets more complex as to, okay, we want to run 2 or 3 cold campaigns and then 2 or 3 retargeting campaigns. I kind of think of it in terms of how much, the 20-30% that we want in the initial awareness and the shift to building trust and credibility, and then split the dailies up in between there. But also keep in mind that you can set a daily budget for text ads, spotlight ads, follower ads. It's not necessarily going to spend that budget every day because of the nature of those ads. But yeah, it's mostly a combination of how you want to proportion your overall strategy and then your monthly budget divided by the number of days in that month.
So one more question about monthly budget, but again, this is what we have covered in the beginning, right? I will share with you guys the document with these different budget tiers, so you can go through Justin's approach, right, and see how to plan it accordingly. And again, just to summarize, start small, right? The first tier is about 500 to 1K per month.
Yeah, I would start small, and the biggest thing, when you're talking about budget is don't necessarily think of LinkedIn as its own little silo that it needs to grow and improve on itself. Get the insights tag installed, get the retargeting audiences set up. You could start with retargeting, and $10 a day, like $300 a month of just retargeting your website traffic, qualifying them and retargeting them is a good place to start. 500 to 1,000. It's, most LinkedIn ads agencies wouldn't touch an account that's spending less than 3, but I'm a scrappy startup founder. Like I started with $300 budget here, 500, because I didn't just have money to throw away. Most of us don't. So start small, get your conversion tracking set up, try to prove its worth, and it should build momentum over time.
Why LinkedIn took money from running lead gen forum ad without anyone filling the form?
Yeah, so lead gen forms are a different animal. You pretty much pay for any interaction with the ad. So even I think if they open up the ad, it counts as a click. If they click through that into your company page, it counts as a click. So you're paying more for the placement of that ad in front of your prospect, and there's no guarantee that you're going to get X amount of submissions. The first thing I would look at is what's your open to submit ratio. If you have 15 opens and no submissions, look at, obviously your ad did okay, like you got people to open it. So look at that form then. When it opens, what do they see? What problems could lead to them not submitting it? Are you asking for too much information? Because ideally, like they already showed interest, the form opened and most of their information auto-populated. So what's on there that prevented them from taking one more click? I would look at that.
One more thing I would love just to say thank you guys, Jonathan and Joshua. You were very helpful in the Zoom chat, so appreciate the help and answering all the questions and maintaining the conversations. Thanks a lot for helping us as well. So let's take the last two questions. One is, if you have multiple products you'd like to promote, would you run campaigns for them all at the same time for the same target audience, or you just recommend run them on a long span of time?
That's a really good question. So what we've done is I pick a core flagship offer. Usually you have a bread and butter kind of offering or your core service. I start with that. I put most of the budget in that. And then as you saw with the retargeting layers, that's usually a good place to do different things. So it'd be very expensive to put multiple offers in front of a cold audience. It's actually very inexpensive to get them to your website for one service and then retarget them and show them your other 2 or 3 services. So I would think of it that way, where you could put most of your money on one and retarget them and show them, because we have no marketing budget in any of our products other than LinkedIn ads. But once they get to our website, after we're on their radar for LinkedIn ads, I'll show them retargeting ads that say, hey, we have a visitor ID offer. We have a LinkedIn outreach offer. We have a LinkedIn ad scheduling tool. I'll show them other things, but I won't put any of that budget. That's not how I initially hooked their attention. So I would kind of probably think of it that way.
Thank you. So the last question, and guys, if we didn't answer your questions, I dropped a link to our community. Feel free to join and ask all the questions there. I will share some of them with Justin, so to get additional feedback for you.
I'll help burden that for sure.
So the last one is about your approach, right? If your first touch is very upfront and you share who you are and what you do, right? What would be the recommended second touch?
The first layer of retargeting that I like to build is trust and credibility. So you got their attention with what you offer. It's likely that they have a need or it's on their mind, they're curious about it, and you've already kind of qualified them with the targeting filters if you did that right. So in my mind, the biggest objection that's next to overcome isn't just staying in front of them for the next 90 days. It's proving to them, if you did a good job, if they know they have a need and they know they're aware that a solution exists, the very next thing that they're going to do is probably evaluate, at this point, just because you got to them first doesn't mean that you're top option. They might just go to Google and do their research, and then you're one of 5 solutions a lot of times. So what I spend most of my time doing in the first retargeting campaign I would focus on is, why can you trust me? So I like to do case studies, client testimonials, client success stories, and expert video. I put that as my main focus. And then after that, I might have the next retargeting campaign would be, again, here's what we do, here's the pain points we solve, because you might have 5 or 6 ads in your cold layer. They just saw one of those and clicked into your website. So you might have had these other really good ads that showed the pain you solved and part of your solution. They didn't get to see those. So I would also then retarget them with more of that range, like here's the pain points we solve. Because it's almost like, you're losing money if you don't do this, or what's the cost of not taking action? So I would do that secondarily, but the first primary focus is, why can you trust me? Who have I worked with? What are the results? I would focus on anything you have, press releases, organic communities, things like that would be the primary focus.
Thank you. So I would try to summarize everything what you have shared with us. And you guys, probably you have seen that it's just not like a shortcut. You can't just set up one type of ad, I don't know, like a killer copy with the image and get a bunch of leads coming to your pipeline, right? So we mentioned the website visitors, which means you definitely need to have a good content strategy and drive traffic to your content. And your content should be good enough so people stay inside and check other pages, maybe a product page, your demo page, right? Customer stories, etc. So you can build the relevant audience. You can build an audience of people who are checking your case studies so you can do the appropriate retargeting. So in our case, we have 3 pillars of our services: the go-to-market strategy, account-based marketing, and B2B demand generation, right? So based on this, we can, based on the case studies that people consumed, we can retarget them with the relevant content, right, that belongs to one of these categories, not just throwing all our best content that we have. Next point is that you can clearly see that it's just a full funnel approach, right? We have awareness layers, we have demand generation layers, we have demand capturing layers, right? I don't believe, and I believe this session already proved this, you can't just do the demand capturing, or you can't just do the demand generation. I mean, it's possible, but it's just a passive function, right? You need to accelerate the approach to get the results. These are my main takeaways, right? Start small, don't scale, and we say the same when it comes to ABM, for example. Don't try to launch a campaign with 1,000 accounts, right? If you are doing this for the first time, you don't have the resources and you won't do it properly. The same is here. Don't launch huge campaign on LinkedIn. Start small with just few formats of ads, right? Allocate 500 to 1K budget. Just split it. 30% comes to awareness ads and 70% to retargeting, let's say demand capturing and demand generation and demand capturing, right? And as you can see, this is not a siloed strategy. It's not a separate strategy. It's just a mix of your broad full funnel strategy. So am I correct with my takeaways?
I absolutely think so. And as much as I love LinkedIn ads, or one portion of the funnel, as I'm learning, and growing in the other ones as well, yeah, it's very clear that you need a healthy mix of creating the demand, capturing the demand, and the whole ecosystem. There's definitely not one piece that you could get away with just running it.
My last line, just to wrap it up: if you guys need a good LinkedIn ads agency, you probably know who you need to reach out. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks a lot for this brilliant conversation. Lots of great engagements, chat, questions, etc. And obviously, Justin, thanks a lot for joining me, mate. It was really fantastic.